Welcome to Divine Play Interviews. Today I'm interviewing Dr. Keith Blevins and Valda Monroe, and it's a great pleasure to be interviewing you both. These are two teachers and facilitators of the three principles in our community who have worked directly with Sid Banks and been writing and working with thousands of people, hundreds of people, right, over the years. And I would love to begin with, how did you find the three principles? What brought you to meet Sid Banks or to have insight into the nature of your thought-feeling systems?
You go first.
Well, it was the professional association with people that were interested. We were professionally associated with a group of people who were interested in that, and one of those people essentially stumbled into Sid and said, "Oh my goodness, this is really different. This person is affecting large numbers of people. He has no program. He has no professional qualifications. He has no techniques or methods or anything. He just talks to people, and he's impacting hundreds and hundreds of people. And he's not a guru. He's not a leader. He has no organization. What's the deal? How's that? How do we account for that? Let's check this out." And we all got intrigued, and the more we listened, the more intrigued we got, and the more impacted we got, and the more moved and changed we started changing. And we could see that the people that he was talking to were way beyond where we were in terms of their level of mental health. They were just thriving, couples, families, and they were ordinary people. They weren't people that were, I don't know, they weren't really even people that would become typical clients or typical people that they were ordinary people. They were people that worked at the grocery store, and
they weren't even people who were wildly trying to get self-help for themselves.
Yeah,
they weren't that group either.
Yeah,
they were just ordinary people who had heard and thought, they lived on the island, and so it was.
I would venture to say that probably very few of them had ever darkened the door of a therapist or a counselor or a clinic or anything like that. They were that ordinary. I mean, they lived in a remote area, rather in a way isolated area on an island that was 5 miles by 15 miles, so a fairly small space. And there were a lot of, they impressed us. We met them. We were like, whoa, this is not just one person. This is, whatever he's talking about is learnable and translatable to the general population, which was exactly what we hoped for and had visions for ourselves. But he actually was way ahead of us in terms of how it was happening, how it could be done. So we were interested in what he was doing.
So here you are having these hopes and these visions and these dreams, and you go and meet this man who's already doing it, and you're intrigued and you want to learn more, and you go and you listen more. And then what did you begin to notice?
Can I say first?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, he was, I don't know what enlightened means particularly, but I'm thinking he was probably an enlightened man. Sid was. So his presence was impactful. It was unmistakable. And I didn't even particularly want to go, but all of our friends were going, and I kept trying to arrange a way for them to leave me a car because I didn't want to be left at home without a car. And so I worked so hard to try to get them to ride with them and them to ride with them and somebody to leave me a car. I could not get it done. About 4 days before, I thought, okay, I've tried everything I know. I'm going. And so that was, so I got there through the back door, kind of. But I got there through the back door, but then we get there, and Keith sits me on the very front row, and Sid, it was a pretty small place, and his knee far from mine. And I thought, oh, well, this is going to be up close and personal here, the minute he started talking, I felt like somebody had hit me in the chest. I could feel. I thought, oh, I knew it just resonated in me immediately, and I knew I had never been in the presence of a person like that before, and I just was immediately heads up. So it was very obvious to me that he was a very unique person. And I loved what he was saying. He would talk, and I would I would think, that's true, and then he'd say something else, and I'd think, that's true too, so it was. But I also loved that the people that knew him, who'd been learning from him, they didn't have that sort of outstanding presence to them. They were more ordinary people like Keith and I were. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, this is not just something one man could know. These other people are learning from him, because they're definitely the cream of I just hadn't quite met people with that level of consciousness, that level of, I guess, just consciousness about them. They were more awake than most people. Mm. They were unbelievably generous to us. They invited us to their homes. We still are in touch with all of them after all these years. Very deep friendships were formed, and very easily, and in no amount of time at all. Yeah. So that was all unique and unusual. Without that, I don't know where I would have. That was very helpful.
Yeah. Very meaningful, very impactful.
And was that your first experience too, Keith? When you first sat in there with Sid, did you think, yeah, this is true?
It was very similar, yeah. I remember thinking, I've always thought these things, but I've never heard anyone say them. And if anyone ever did say them, they would say them, oh, you might hear that in a sentence in an hour and a half talk, or you might hear it in an opening prayer, or you might read it in a book, buried deep in the middle of a book somewhere. But what he was saying was every sentence. It was bottom line, bottom line, bottom line, bottom line. And that was, I'd never heard anything like that. And he wasn't talking intellectually. He wasn't giving a speech. He was sharing deep knowledge straight from his heart. And it was impactful, and it woke me up, and there was so much respect in the room, so much depth of feeling among everyone, that we knew we were. I mean, it was just a way. I mean, there was just some way, whoa, pay attention.